Welcome to a podcast celebrating Scottish culture and entertainment, which is here to sing the praises of books, films, comedy, music, theatre, exhibitions, telly, poetry, and all that jazz. I'm Nicola Meehan. I'm a writer and broadcaster, and I'll give you the lowdown on what's coming up, what's happening now, what came before, and what we love, which is to say that every week, nearly, I'm here to give you a kick up the arts. Now, before we jump on board with this episode, I am delighted to tell you that the writer and legend Val McDermid is going to be joining me for a Kick Up the Arts live from Edinburgh's Portobello Bookshop. We'll be celebrating her latest paperback, Queen Macbeth. That's on July the 9th, and she'll also chat about a favourite Scottish album and film and book. We would love you to come along. I will put ticket links everywhere. There are also tickets on sale now, just to remind you, for a Kick Up the Arts live from the Edinburgh Fringe. I'm going to be joined at the stand for a series of lunchtime chats with fab guests, including Barbara Dixon on August the 20th, Grant Stott on August the 21st, and Delamitre's Justin Curry on August the 23rd. It would be fab to see you there. There's going to be more dates and guests announced soon. And if you are very quick, I'm at Paisley Book Festival this weekend. That is with songwriters and novelist James Yorkston and Malachi Talak. They're going to chat about their latest books and music, and they might even play us some songs. So that's Paisley Town Hall, 4 to 5 p.m. on Saturday, April the 26th. Now, meanwhile, on to this episode, and it is about a new musical theatre production that is based on one of my all-time favourite films. Restless Natives hijacked my heart as a kid when it was released in the mid-1980s, and its politics, its love, its humour, its big country soundtrack, and its gorgeous protagonists, the clown and the Wolfman and Margot, have been loved by so many of us ever since. Now, the tale of the Highland Highwaymen who hold up tour buses and charm everyone in sight is coming to the stage, and it is touring Scotland. It's kicking off at Perth Theatre right now before travelling to Stirling, Aberdeen, Inverness, Edinburgh and Glasgow in May and June. The new show is thanks to the film's original creative team, director Michael Hoffman, producer Andy Paterson and writer Ninian Dunnett, and it plays out to the tune of Big Country alongside new songs from composer Tim Sutton with lyrics from Ninian. And it is also thanks to a new clown aka Ronnie and Wolfman aka Will and Margot. They were played in the film by Joe Malani, Vincent Friel and Terry Lally respectively, and this time around we're seeing them brought to joyous life by Kyle Gardner, Finlay MacKillop and Kirsty McLaren. Sarah Galbraith reprises Ned Beatty's role as Bender, and you can hear Sarah with Kirsty workshopping some of the new songs as a sneak preview throughout this episode. These are just rough recordings, but you'll get the idea. And they sound wonderful already. I grabbed a chat with Kirsty, Kyle and Finlay during rehearsals at Perth Theatre last week, but before that, I sat down with producer Andy Paterson, whose other film credits include Girl with a Pearl Earring and Hilary and Jackie, along with the brilliant actor, writer and panto icon Alan McHugh. He loved the film the first time around, and now he's starring as Chief Inspector Baird in the musical, tasked with ensnaring the clown and the Wolfman. Good luck with that. Alan had been in rehearsals too, and I was well impressed with his warm-up dance moves.
Well, Nicola Meehan, I saw you at the back, and you had the opportunity to join in, and you didn't, and that was your first mistake of the day.
I was so in awe of you all doing your star jumps early in the morning after a very exciting fire drill and everything. So anyway, I watched in awe, and what an absolute pleasure to come up to Perth. I got the train from Stirling, and so I'm looking at the landscape. But because I rewatched yet again Restless Natives for I don't know what count of times last night, it's funny the way you look at the landscape and you go, that's right. You can almost envisage the clown and the Wolfman everywhere, can't you? You kind of want that. And Andy, when you go back to the sort of roots of the film, when did you first encounter, if you like, the clown and the Wolfman, even in your imagination, and the shared idea?
Well, we had made a student movie, and it actually managed to get released, and the BBC bought it, so it was kind of amazing, but we got a chance to make a film.
Yeah.
And then a couple of the guys had this idea that we would launch a national screenwriting competition.
Yeah.
So we got Lloyds Bank to sponsor this screenwriting competition, and lots of entries came in, and some of them were definitely not films. I mean, we had, things, the most extraordinary array of stuff came in that thought it might be a film. And we had the great luck to be kind of mentored by producer David Putnam, who made Local Hero. Wow. So we got him. We shortlisted these hundreds of things down to 6, and he chose a script about a clown and a wolfman called Restless Natives. That was 1983. 1993, I suppose, that we did the competition. And David also introduced us to Thorn EMI, who sadly no longer making films. And they told us that 1985 was going to be British Film Year. This was going to be a sort of marketing opportunity. And they were quite keen to have some British films. So they had a look at the script. While Mike, the director, is American. We made that first film together. I drove him round the Highlands, did what's now, whatever they call it, the 500. And we got to Shieldaig, and on the beach there was a red telephone box. It was straight out of Local Hero, and we needed to call back.
Sign.
So we called Rick and Mark, who were back in London, and they told us that EMI were going to greenlight the film.
Really?
It's never been that easy since. I've been making films for 40 years, but just to call back, and the first people we gave it to, probably the only people that could have done it, greenlit the film.
Isn't that incredible? I love that it's actually embedded in you travelling around Scotland as well, and in that landscape. Do you remember when you first saw Restless Natives, Alan? Because some people saw it back in the day, some people are just coming to it now, regardless of what age we are, but we all knew about it somehow, right? The Clown and the Wolfman.
I do remember when I saw it in 1985. There weren't many Scottish films around, and there weren't many Scottish films crammed with mostly Scottish actors. And it struck a chord with me, all my mates, all my family. It wasn't couthy, it wasn't patronising, it wasn't haggis and heather and shortbread. It showed a real Scotland, it showed an urban Scotland, it showed a rural Scotland. It showed people that I could relate to, pals that I knew, people on the dole. And it really resonated with me because Thatcher, that was my first vote when I was 18. And that was my first experience of voting, and we lost. And so, I mean, that resonated with me for years after I was a kid of Thatcher, a teenager of Thatcherism. And so the journey of the Clown and Wolfman, me and my pals understood that. And we romanticised it, not in a twee way, but God, yes, these guys are kicking back. Shouldn't we all do that? And I was saying to Andy and the team earlier as well, I watched it again about 4 weeks ago, possibly for the first time in about 30 years. Now, it's of its time, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not dated.
No.
It's not dated in any way, shape or form, and geez, it's almost as relevant today as it was then politically.
It's so true. But the lovely thing is as well, there are these absolutely resonant themes of disillusionment and inequality, but it's so much about family and friendship. My God, it's a love story to friendship as much as it is anything. I first saw it, maybe it was in 85. I suspect it must have been a little bit later because I wouldn't have gone to see it at the cinema. I was up at my dad's, and we must have got it when he came out from the video shop. And
I thought you were going to say when he came out of jail.
That's a whole other podcast. That's a whole other musical. We'll get to that. And I loved it. Instantly, you're drawn in by the music, right? Big Country, and it sings. That film sings, and my goodness, we'll get to the stage adaptation and the music within that. But what you're saying about it appealing to all sort of members of your family is absolutely true, because my dad wasn't easily impressed and he absolutely loved it as well. So he got it, maybe the more political elements and just the humour and the dialogue. But I was a kid, so I was actually relating to the children. And like so many brilliant classic Scottish movies, obviously those that Bill Forsyth has worked on, particularly maybe Gregory's Girl, this is the same thing. The kids are really wise in this. They are never patronised, are they?
Well, they showed the film at the Edinburgh Film Festival a couple of years ago. And Rachel Boyd came up.
Oh,
and I had not seen her since we shot it. And she's all grown up. I mean, you know, she's a TV producer. But we had such a great time. She's still Isla, and it's just kind of, she's just fantastic.
Honestly, I don't know, maybe I was about ages with Isla, and I'm like, how cool is she? I was watching the credits last night, and Miss Boyd, as she is referred to, and it had her own voice coach, and I was like, I love that she's been given like the absolute diva status she should have been, right? Because she was
it wasn't
perfect.
a choice. I mean, you know, we didn't have, you do what you're told by those kids.
Exactly. But I just love those little details of it. So yeah, we have it. It's appealing to kids. It's appealing to your family. It's appealing to your pals as well. You're so right. And so many lines that we could repeat. At what point did the realisation that not only had the film taken on such a sort of mythical and close place in our hearts, but also that it might have another lease of life on stage first come to strike you?
I suppose about 15 years ago, Studio Canal bought the EMI library.
Sure.
And I got a call from a mate of mine who worked for them and said, we've got this library, have a look at it, see if there's anything in there that you might want to remake. And that was Restless Natives. So I said, well, if anybody's going to remake that, it's going to be us. And we tried various things. We literally came up with a US version because we discovered that Jack Black loved the film. So
really?
I've actually sat on the 12th floor of Universal Studios in Hollywood pitching the American version of Restless Natives. And we just all kind of lost it because we just knew that they wouldn't, I mean, Brenda Bender would be the one who's in charge of that, and they'd have been dead on the second hold-up. And we just couldn't find any way to make sense of it in America.
There's no loophole, right?
It was just, and we literally, and honestly, we didn't fancy it. We felt like it was tinkering with something that was just, as Alan kindly says, something that still resonates, hasn't dated, and it just felt wrong to try and do it. So they asked us a few times, because you did work in any place that there's tourism, you could do it in Italy or Spain or whatever. I'm like, never felt right. And then the idea of the stage musical came up. Yeah. I mean, as you were saying earlier, it's the emotion, it's the friendship, it's that journey that makes you go, that's what a musical needs at heart. Yeah. And so it kind of fell sort of naturally into a kind of 2-act structure. We started writing down the names of songs as the very first thing we did. Okay. Don't You Know I, which makes it into the show. Yeah. Political Hot Potato, which didn't make it into the show. So much of it fell into place so quickly.
At what point did you get involved with this, Alan, and tell us about your character? Because he's superb and he has some of the great there are so many great lines, but some of the real great lines in the film.
I get involved towards the end of last year when I get the very nice email or call from an agent saying that they would like to me audition for the part of Chief Inspector Alec Baird. And honestly, it is the most excited I've been about a new show in a while. Really? And because the film meant such a lot to me. And I know I'm going over old ground, but even the people in the film watching it was full of pals. Vince and Terry and Joe and Scott Jones, Laurie McNichol, pals, pals. And so I went for the casting, and that was an interesting one because I got a message from Simone, the casting director, asking me if I would really put myself out and would I terribly mind hanging about for 2 or 3 hours to read in with other people, as if that was an imposition, because it meant I get the chance to audition for 3 or 4 hours. And I eventually Mike started directing me instead of the people who were meant to be auditioning. So I got to sing the song several times in different keys and do the scene several different ways. So I come away with a good feeling. Not you never come out thinking you've got the part, but thinking this is a great positive atmosphere and I want this, and if I get it, great. So that was November time, and here we are now in April in the rehearsal room, and it all came to pass.
So you always feel kind of really weird going, you're going to ask Alan McHugh to audition.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's definitely not, can he handle it?
Yeah, quite.
But trying to get those combinations. And, as Alan said, he stayed and auditioned with a lot of contenders for the other character. And I think by the end of it, the casting director had to say to Mike, so is that a yes to Alan? He went, obviously. I should say that, He'd already banked that and was using it for...
But that never crossed an actor's mind.
No,
I mean, I genuinely go in there thinking, never having met Mike or Ninian or Tim or Andy before, think I'm just another name on the page.
Yeah.
As far as I don't know if they know anything about me. Obviously they will, but I mean... Not to the extent that Andy said, how dare we ask Alan McHugh to audition, but I would always expect to audition.
Totally. It's lovely you're saying, how much you loved the idea, because given how much the film meant to you and means to you, Alan, that can be a tricky thing then, right? Because you kind of feel it's so precious, it almost becomes kind of untouchable, so it's got to work even harder.
Absolutely.
To convince you about this stage adaptation, because it feels a bit untouchable unless you dive in like this.
Well, I think, and Andy talked about it earlier, I think the untouchable thing is doing a film remake. For me, 9 times out of 10, they're horrific. And, just... However, so if you're going to develop it, I think a stage way, and to develop it and heighten it and add to it and develop it is by turning it into a musical and creating songs on the back of the Big Country template that articulate the things that the characters can't say in real life. Right. So to me, if you're going to develop it, it's a no-brainer for a musical. So, and I think it's safer that way than tampering with an unbreakable film and trying to break it.
Yeah, that's lovely what you're saying about the songs and the music, giving us an insight into the sort of emotional life of the characters and the story. Andy, you can maybe tell us a little bit about the way in which, you know, it has evolved, the music, if you like, from, as Alan says, the Big Country template. Because what really strikes me, having sat in rehearsals and seen a little bit of sneak previews and heard, is this is not a jukebox musical, right? These songs are absolutely inherent to the narrative, to the production, to the characters, to the story that we know and love, but it's maybe bringing something else as well.
Yeah, well, you couldn't have said it better. I mean, we knew from the start we were not interested in writing a jukebox musical. We'd had the extraordinary experience all those years ago of working with Big Country, who, I mean, I don't know if people know, but the scene in Princess Street Gardens where the Skellies run through the piles of litter, the two voices there are Stuart and Bruce. We've got them into the theatre, and they did a couple of wild lines. So, you know, I mean, obviously the whole Stuart thing is a different story. I'm actually working with a documentary maker, Robbie Fraser, on a feature documentary about Stuart, which we hope will be out next year. So it's been great to kind of delve into that. I mean, it was not always straightforward. They were so enthusiastic, but they were a touring band. They'd never written a score before. And when it came to post-production, we couldn't get them to focus. I mean, I think they were scared, maybe not that, but certainly they were busy, and we needed them to see the cut and start working on it. And in the end, Mike and I had to get on a plane, go to Germany and literally get on their tour bus. And we actually showed them the film for the I time.
You held them up on a bus.
3 o'clock in the morning.
How very, very apt.
Exactly. I knew you'd make
you the clown and Mike the Wolfman.
I didn't want to possibly conjecture as to who might be the...
Very diplomatic that Alan suggested that I was the clown and Mike, and the director was the Wolfman. Yeah, I think you'll find it was the other way around. But, but you know, that was about as rock and roll as it gets to actually sit on the bus. So they were captive, showed it them, and then got into the studio to do that. But, you know, we had stayed in touch with them. We knew that the themes of that music were going to be crucial. It wasn't going to be jukebox. We trawled, you know, we listened to the entire repertoire again and again, found a couple of absolute gems. I mean, there's a song called Ships, which Stuart and Bruce wrote, which is a kind of ballad. And it just kind of went, oh, that is going to be Ronnie's Lament. That's going to be an amazing thing. Most of all, we wanted to write a proper musical, inspired by those themes, using some of those themes. And so Tim Sutton, a composer we were introduced to, just completely got it, and that became the team. The most extraordinary thing was discovering that Ninian, the original screenwriter, is a lyricist. I mean, when you're working with writers, it's sometimes very painful if they give you this piece of work and you go, this isn't doing the job. You know, part of it, my job as part of the script writing team is how you're going to tell it. When somebody gives you that and you kind of go, no, the song's got to do this. It can't, you know, this is amazing lyrics, but it's not doing the job. And that kind of, you feel really like you've done all this work and now I'm going to tell you it's not doing the job. With Ninian, it comes out so easily that after a while I went, okay, that's rubbish. It's got to do this. And on the night before the last workshop share, I had just this notion that we should reprise this song, What Kind of Country Is This? At the end. So we sat up half the night and he just rewrote this or wrote this, you know, second version of it. It just comes out. It's just such a joy to have him, all that wit, all the lines that you know and love from the movie he wrote, and now he's writing the lyrics.
Well, I've already said to Ninian, and reading the lyrics and hearing the songs, and we were about a week into rehearsals, and I sat down with him and I said, only a Scottish person could have written these lyrics, because nobody else, there's an insight there and there's a colloquialism about it, but there's a heart, there's a Scottish heart to these lyrics, and there's a wit that only a Scot could have written, and they're phenomenal.
I think that's so true, and I think that's the case with the Big Country music as well, but interestingly, because it's so Scottish and it's a really Scottish cast we've got here on stage as well.
Can I interrupt you? There's an interesting thing about the casting that Andy told me in the pub last week about what you've got in black and white that can't be broken about the casting.
Oh, I mean, it was just very clear that we were only going to cast Scottish performers.
There we go, right.
Yeah, I mean, exactly as Alan was saying about a Scot is the voice of this. You know, Mike and I worked with him long and hard over the years to get the structure and everything right, but we're good enough producers to know that you let him write that dialogue because he does it. But it also just, it had to be Scottish.
Yeah.
Happily, the casting director I've worked with forever, Simone Pereira-Hind, moved up to Edinburgh years ago, so she is Scottish-based. And so we were able to see so many people and just such an array of talent. I find it astonishing when you've got actors and then they can do that singing thing.
Quite, that's it.
You know,
totally.
that is just an incredible thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, the show starts with this a cappella, you know, choral version of In a Big Country. And when we did the workshop at Perth a while back, Bruce from Big Country and Stuart's widow and daughter were there, and we were more nervous than we have ever been. And I had my spies on them because I was up in the box. And I just got the message, 90 seconds in, Bruce is in tears. So we knew it was going to be all right. It's,
but it is, you know, it does mean that much to so many people. Alan, I'm conscious that you need to get back into rehearsals. You've got
Becky
a lot of
will come
singing and
and
dancing
get me
to
when
do.
it's coming, so I can keep going to Becky comes.
But I do want to touch on, you mentioned friends within the film, and of course you'll have both been so close, and we'll come to some of the other cast, and the Clown and the Wolfman this time around. But Vince Friel, so I adored Restless Natives. It has been basically from the first time I saw it, and I didn't need to decide beyond then. It was my favourite film. It remains my favourite film. The more I watch it, the more I get out of it. I can't remember if I was working in the Arches or the Tron at the time, but I was in the Tron Theatre, and Andy Arnold, who had been my artistic director, came up to my then boyfriend, this is about 20 odd years ago now, husband, and said, "Do you mind if I introduce Nicola to someone?" Because I'd been telling Andy Arnold for years that I needed to meet Vincent Friel, and Andy knew him. So one day in the Tron bar, now it's got the kind of glass front, this is the Tron in Glasgow, and I just told him how much I adored the film, how much he was wonderful. But as he was leaving, he walked past the glass front, and so that meant he turned round and he did the kind of travelator scene with me and waved backwards, which Andy Arnold and my husband and I saw. And honestly, that moment, his face, you know, it was beautiful, you know, and I think those characters mean so much to so many people. But I have to say, in rehearsals there, the same scene as it happened that I happened to sit in on, I was so taken aback by Will, as he is now, and his body language was actually very like Vince.
Yeah.
It's quite amazing to me that they've become our Will and Ronnie and Margot.
Really
because
have.
having been with this movie in my head for 40 years, to actually have new people doing it, and I've forgotten that it's not Vince and Joe.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever expected that.
Without hijacking the roles, they've just made them their own naturally.
Quite.
I mean, Vince and Joe and Terry did their own thing, and Vince, God rest his wonderful soul. I mean, terrible what happened to Vince, but Vince, just one of the funniest, loveliest people you could ever meet. You say Vince Friel's name to MD, go, funniest guy I've met, funniest guy I've met, funniest guy I've met.
Yeah. Also, the depictions of men at that point in the 80s in Scotland, these guys are really vulnerable, you know, Ronnie and, you know, the hamster, and they kind of speaking to whoever it is that he finds to speak to, that may or, you know, in his family or not. All of those things are really lovely, but quite fragile. And again, you could feel that, I think, on the stage as well. This idea of men and friendship and love and vulnerability is there, but also it's so funny as well, right? We need to touch on that.
We wanted to make sure that if you love the film, it'll feel faithful.
Yeah, you got the film as well.
Yeah, and then you want to make sure that you kind of go...
That's it. Alan McHugh,
Nicola,
always a pleasure.
See you later. Thank you for your decaf call.
Good luck. He's back into rehearsals.
A simple glance from Becky is all you need to get him back. So,
By the way, Becky, who's a legend as well, right? It's like place is full of them.
Yeah, no, we've got
behind the scenes and on the stage. But yes, being faithful to the film and the humour of the film and the warmth of it.
Well, you would be an idiot to not use the great lines from the movie. And as we have the original writer with us, which is fantastic, we wanted to make sure that we honour all, you know, the great moments. I mean, there is some dispute and debate. There are a few lines that aren't in. Whether they'll find their way back in the last 9 days, I don't know.
Well, I've experienced that even within this room. You know, it's such and such a line, and actually it's not just now. And do you know why that is? Because every line is spot on and memorable, and we all have a different favourite part, right?
This is true. I think
You can't win, but you can't lose.
It's a bit, Ninian will appreciate the reference. It's a bit like Hamlet, that it's so full of the great lines, that you just you don't want to hear them all the time. So.
Exactly. Well, on that note, I'm going to get to meet some of the new cast and talk to them about their characters. But Andy, thank you so much. You've got so many meetings. You've got 9 days at the moment until opening, and it's going to be magical.
We were just saying I'm a film producer, and if you're 9 days away from shooting, you're going to do 3 minutes on the first day, and they want us to do the whole thing in one go. I don't understand how this works. Thank you so much, Nicola.
Thank you so much.
What kind of country is this? Who gets to say? Is it us that makes it what it is? Or them from far away? Whose famous mountains are they? So wild and steep. Who's brave Rob Roy? Who's Charlie Boy? Dead and going cheap.
So I've already spoken to lovely Andy Paterson, who is a producer on the film and, of course, is here for the stage adaptation too, and Alan McHugh, who remembers the wonderful film from first time around, and he's Baird, of course, in this stage adaptation. What's it like for you guys? Like, when did you first even encounter the clown and the Wolfman? And maybe get you to introduce yourselves and say the part you're playing rather than me doing it, because I got excited again. So, who wants to go first?
Yes, I'll go first. Hello, my name is Finlay McKillop, and I'm playing the part of Will Bryce.
AKA?
The Wolfman.
I am Kyle Gardiner, and I'm playing Ronnie, a.k.a. the Clown.
Yeah, see, they've all got two names, but you only have
I've
one,
only
your
got
character.
one.
Iconic as she is.
Absolutely. My name's Kirsty McLaren, and I play Margot.
Oh, lovely, lovely Margot. So when did you first, any of you, actually become aware of the film? Because I'm a child of the 80s, so I remember it. But for you guys, it's been a phenomenon, even just the iconography of the clown and the Wolfman for loads of generations, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I hadn't seen the film until I did I did all the workshops of the show.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen the film until I did that. But I knew the clown and the Wolfman iconography, as you said, just as a symbol of Scotland, I suppose.
Yeah, totally.
Those'll do. Settle down, Calamity Jane. You hold your peace now, eh? Who's the doll with attitude? Will you tell her this is not okay? You like our foreign customs, the things the natives say. We're quaint round here about the law. We don't do things this way.
That's a brilliant way of putting it. It is a symbol of Scotland, but also it's a symbol of friendship. There's a real friendship at the heart of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Between...
Well, definitely that's sort of the overall piece, that sort of friendship of Ronnie and Will, I think, is so strong, and the journey that it goes on, I think it's something really special that the audience will be able to connect to as well and see themselves in it, and hopefully be inspired by the end of it. Fingers are crossed.
Yeah.
Hopefully will be.
Yeah. Would you agree with that, Kyle?
Oh, totally. It's fundamental to it. It's the sort of the double act thing, isn't it? They're straight there from the beginning, all the way through it. The comedy between the two of them, and the love and the care between the two of them as well. It's great, the way their relationship changes and grows throughout the pieces. It's a great thing to be able to play, to be fair.
I think you're just hit on something there that I touched on with Alan and Andy as well, which is at the heart of their friendship. There's a real vulnerability there, right? There's a kindness. And maybe we don't get to see that quite as often, especially in something that was rooted in sort of mid-1980s, if you like, that depiction of men.
Yeah, masculinity in general, yeah, definitely. I think that there's an aspect to them both, they're kind of misfits and they sort of seem to find each other, don't they? Them against the world, I think, a wee bit. Yeah, but that's a great point as well.
Yeah.
Because how much Will needs Ronnie, you see that at the beginning, and as that starts the journey, that you realise Ronnie needs Will as well. They both need each other
Just
as much.
Yeah, quite. So, Kirsty, you mentioned obviously workshopping it as well, and there's a really, really striking bit of footage I've seen online of some of the songs kind of coming to life. So, what was that like for you? Because we'll know big country songs a little bit, but they're so embedded in this and in the film as well. It's so important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the big country anthems are, again, it's one of those like really Scottish classic rock music. that everybody knows. It's mixed really nicely with the original songs by Tim Sutton. There's some nice through lines there, and Tim's been really upheld the source material, and they're really well embedded in the story. I mean, obviously they're in the film as well, so certainly the big country music, so you can't imagine this story without that kind of back catalogue of music.
Yeah.
So I think the way that it's been integrated into the characterisation and the story is really seamlessly done.
Yeah, and that's no mean feat, because the film means so much to people. The soundtrack means so much to people. But I think when it's coming from such a place of love, and also for you guys as well, there's so many of the original creative team on board.
Oh.
So I was even like starstruck, not just watching you guys embodying, the new generation of the clown and the Wolfman and Margot. I won't say too much, but it was imagine walking in the travelator scene. It was just wonderful.
Yeah.
I call that an iconic scene, but pretty much every scene is. But then your director, right?
Yeah.
It's like, the number of people who were there first time directing you, part of the entire story of it is just incredible, isn't it? Were your folks
crazy,
fans of it, or your family or family members, when you say you're doing something like this? Because everyone's got a favourite line, everyone's got a favourite moment, right?
Yeah.
Well, there was the thing when Finlay and I first met, we met doing the promo shoots for the sort of photography sessions. And they
Was
had,
that the first time you met?
That was the first time we met, yeah.
And they recorded it.
They recorded it out, Andy Paterson out with the camera.
Yeah.
No, it was awkward. I was up there, put the phone away. I was like,
Yeah, but we had a motorbike there that was the same model of bike that they used in the film.
The Suzuki.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know your stuff. And license plates on the back of it are the exact ones that were used inside the film. And it was our
Kevin from Glenrothes.
Kevin from
There we go.
Glenrothes. So he's a super fan of the film. He owns the bike. He's painstakingly put it together from bits and pieces from other bikes, and he showed up to the photo shoot with merchandise on, the Restless Natives t-shirt and all the rest of it. So it's moments like that, and you really realise, how much it does mean to people. So having the original creatives on it just helps so much.
Absolutely, because they are, rooted so much in the piece, and they love the piece so much that they can only pass that on to us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so true. So at what point, you said, Kirsty, you were involved in the workshops, as we know, and at that point you watched the film.
Yes.
Okay, so what was that like for you watching it now, but also with the knowledge that Margot was going to be a character that you were going to be bringing to life in a new way? Because Terry Lally's depiction is just perfect, isn't it?
Oh, she's lovely, because she brings such an innocence, but also a real, power to the character, and it was something that I really wanted to find. And I think fans of the film will obviously see there's it's such the classic film on stage, but there is little tweaks that we've made to hopefully bring that out even more. Particularly, I think, with Margot's character, it's really been developed a little bit, which is really nice for me as an actor, because I got to be part of that, which isn't something you always get to do. I love developing new work. But yeah, it was lovely to see it as well, because I've done the workshops and now seen it on where it is now. It's been really nice to see that development and how that's changed, and see people's ideas being taken, see people's thoughts, and just the way that you're playing it then starts to infiltrate the character a little bit. It's really nice. Yes, it's been a really lovely experience for me, being taking it from that kind of fledgling. During COVID, everyone standing in their little spot and not being allowed to go near each other to now. It's really lovely.
Yeah. I think what struck me as well was watching you guys. You were immediately the clown, the Wolfman, and Margot, even though I have, in my imagination, if you like, and my living, very, very long memory, ideas of who they were. I was watching your depiction, and something struck me, which was this idea of Will and Vincent Friel and his body language. How much did you guys actually study that? Because it's absolutely you, but it was quite uncanny.
Oh, I'll take that. It was initially auditioned for Ronnie, and I remember watching the film and I'm going, I should be auditioning for Will, because I feel so many similarities between myself and Will. And yet it was certainly watching how Vincent portrays Will in every sort of scene, and it's trying to get a grip of that. So hopefully people coming to watch will see that there's similarities there, hopefully, fingers crossed.
That's interesting. You first auditioned for the clown, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. But I remember just watching it going, was telling my agent, I was going, "Oh, really? For Ronnie?" I was like, is it not Will? I was like, is it not Will I should be in for?
Right.
There's a glaikitness to you that...
Thank you very much. I fall into it a bit too easily.
But they have got such a lovely dynamic. Now, there are some characters who have changed. We don't meet all the characters in it, but what I love is everyone's got a line, everyone's got a landscape in their imagination.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The set must be fascinating as well, because you're bringing like the entire Scottish landscape, buses, motorbikes to life on set. What's that been like, seeing how much trust, I guess, you have to have in yourselves and in the audience to go on this journey with you?
Totally. I mean, talking about the design, we've got Becky Minto on. She's the designer.
Superstar.
Total
Absolutely.
superstar.
Mm-hmm.
She's unbelievable. She can make things happen that you read on a script and you go, how on earth are you doing that? And then she just brings it and she makes it happen. And from that aspect is great. And I think the film had a sort of... Well, I know Michael, the director, he's spoke about a lot having a real handmade, homemade feel to it. And I think that's a major part of what we're trying to do with this as well. You know, everyone in the ensemble playing different parts and coming up with real imaginative versions of who these people are, and everyone chipping in with set changes and things like that. Like, that's the dynamic we're trying to bring to it. And hopefully that's sort of like the essence of the film and the musical as well.
Yeah, well, I'm going to let you get back to rehearsals. I got to see some of them and hear a little bit. But just finally, if anyone hasn't seen the film, we should go, right? I mean, we should come and see. We should watch the film, but we don't need to have seen it. We can just come straight to the theatre adaptation and go for it.
Absolutely. I mean, the film now, as much as then, is so, certainly in the current climate, is very poignant. And I think new audiences who are seeing it for the first time, who are seeing the show for the first time, will get that connection between the 80s and now. Fans of the film will have the nostalgia. None of that is lost. But it's just really nice to bring it to new audiences.
And to new life and to new music. All singing, all dancing. And I can't wait to see what other props feature. That's all I'm saying. Thank you so much for taking time. Roll on, easy for me to say. Roll on opening night.
Fear.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Good luck with it all.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
There you go, bigger than the Loch Ness Monster. Some of the stars of Restless Natives the musical: Kyle Gardner, Finlay McKillop and Kirsty McLaren, and before that you heard producer Andy Paterson and another of the show's stars, Alan McHugh. It's running right now at Perth Theatre, and then it's at Stirling McRobert Centre, Aberdeen Her Majesty's Theatre and Inverness Eden Court later in May, before heading to Edinburgh's Leith Theatre and Glasgow's King's through June. If you fancy hearing from another actor who starred in the original film, there's a Kick Up the Arts episode for that, thanks to Dave Anderson, who also starred in Local Hero, Gregory's Girl and so much more. And if you fancy tuning into more big country love, author Chris Brookmeyer chatted about the impact of their album The Crossing on his life and his work, and an early episode of the podcast too. He also chats about his latest novel, The Cracked Mirror, which is out in paperback this week. Huge thanks to the wonderful Perth Theatre for making me so welcome. Actor Colin McCready was also singing that theatre's praises in an episode of the Kick Up the Arts with his former Taggart co-star Blythe Duff a few weeks back. Their conversation is really lovely and worth a listen. All right, I will let you go, but not before reminding you that you can come to a live event. Come to them all. James Yorkston and Malachy Talak are at Paisley Book Festival this weekend. Val McDermott is at the Portobello Bookshop on July the 9th. And then Barbara Dixon, Grant Stott and Justin Curry are at the Edinburgh Fringe at the Stand in August, with more events to be announced very soon. I would love you to sign up for the newsletter. I've made a new website. It took me forever. So please have a look, have a listen, get in touch at kickupthearts.org.